Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you are curious about what is going on here, or you have got a bit lost and stumbled in here accidentally. You are, of course, very welcome. Why not stick around? It could be fun. If you have seen me before, thank you so much for popping back in. It is lovely to see you, especially because we know I ramble on a lot and these videos can get very long, so I appreciate your bravery. So I am going to be chatting away madly today about the New Year Freak Out tag, which is basically me going, I like doing the mid-year tag. I want to give the second half of the year the same attention to detail and an excuse to talk about books I love. So I'm basically taking the mid-year tag and calling it something else. So for the original creator of the mid-year freak out tag, I will link the channel in the descriptions with the original video so you can see my sources. So this is the New Year Freak Out tag. So what I am talking about here is everything, not everything, but the period of time I'm looking at is from the beginning of July to the end of December 2023. So all of the questions will relate to that period of time, because previously I did January to June. So that is what I'm going to be looking at. I have got my big old tag of tea here with all the tags. It's such a staple. I'm going to switch it up and pick them all out randomly. There are a couple I've tried to fold together, so hopefully I'll get them at the same time because it's like part A and part B questions. I'm surrounded by books. We're just going to go for it. I have been trying to film this for about 3 weeks. I've been trying to find the time to pull all my books together, have a serious, uninterrupted filming session, and it has finally come to pass. So I'm very excited to be chatting to you about all of these wonderful books and my thoughts on them. So here we go. There is no editing on this channel. It's a long video. I cannot edit my long videos. My computer will die. So we're just going for it. The camera's keeping rolling. It is one shot. There is no editing. So cheers. Clink, 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 clink. And I know my tea is going to get cold, so I'm just going to have one right at the end of the video as like a reward for managing to do the video. So we're on the glass of water because my voice is going to go. Okay, we've done the kerfuffle waffle. Let's try and, although we embrace waffle, let's try and keep it succinct. Wish me luck. The first tag is unable to be getting out of this tea. Okay. Oh, we're starting off. We're starting off with what is your biggest disappointment for the second half of the year? So we're going straight in with it. Okay, so I have 4 books to talk to you about. So the one I'm going to start with is one, like, it's not a bad book. It's a perfectly fine, good book. It has been loved by lots of people, but I just had such high expectations for it that it's fallen under disappointment. It's Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. I loved Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I loved it. I thought the portrayal of grief and managing that mixed with the fantasy element was so well done. I loved the 2 different types of magic that were explored and how 2 different parts of Bree were kind of coming together. So she sort of like had allegiances to different things and she was feeling a bit torn and she was sort of like trying to make her own way. All of that was so good. Then you had the twist you had all these twisty turny bits of the plot and things, and it was just really well done and I loved it. So Bloodmarked, it was high and it didn't quite give me what I wanted. There was a lot of kind of action plot. There was a lot of love triangle emotional drama. And I just found myself getting really annoyed with the characters in here. Apart from Will. Love Will. Will's amazing. We love Will. But I kind of didn't get as much of the inner conflict with Bree that we had previously that I was enjoying. We didn't kind of see such a strong kind of representation. It just seemed to be a lot of silly decisions for like plot reasons, and I just couldn't get on board. I just couldn't get on board with it. It was really hard, and yes, we get little different snippets of further information of things, but it didn't kind of sit in the same way that excited me, that I wanted to dive deep. I think there were characters we'd seen previously that kind of popped back briefly and then weren't here again, and I think it would have benefited from those characters kind of leading certain conversations and things. It was very much Brie and her friends off. There was a bit kind of before that where it was really interesting and seeing kind of the political nature of stuff that was happening. I was so excited by that. But once we kind of started on the run adventure quest things, it just kind of lost it. It just felt really messy. I think it could have done with just being tightened and pulled together a bit more. Just because it just lost me. There was just so many things that just weren't quite giving me the staying power that I needed to kind of really emotionally connect to the book. Because when things happen, and there were exciting plot points and twists and things going on, but I'd got to that point I didn't care as much, so it didn't have the impact that I wanted it to. Whereas if I could have been brought caring to this point, it would have happened. I just needed more character arcs. I needed people to be there not as a prop to Brie, but as their own individual person with their own individual stories that deserve being examined. It was very much the Brie show, which she's a protagonist, that's great, but it would have hit me more if we could have explored other people's emotions and things they were going through as well. It didn't quite work for me, and it's such a shame. I will continue reading the series, but I'm going to get the next book from the library. The next book I do not have any kind of emotions towards, really. It's One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This did not work for me. I just didn't have emotional connection to the characters. I felt annoyed by character decisions. There was a lot of kind of coincidence. The atmosphere was great. The premise was intriguing, but we kind of just didn't unpick things enough. We just didn't kind of delve deeper into what could have been really fascinating enough. It felt very much kind of surface level, and because like the ending was exciting, it's like it sometimes felt like a little bit of filler kind of getting to that point. I didn't care about the romance. I didn't care about the backstory. I have issue with the protagonist basically abandoning her cousin that she professes to like be her best friend and love, and just not really caring about what's going on with her. It just, again, did not work for me. And this was an October read, so if you want more thoughts on it, go and have a look at my October wrap up. The next two I do not have physical copies for because they were both library books. The first one, again, I had high hopes for it and it just ended up not working for me. It just wasn't a me book, but I do not think it's a bad book, and that is Harrow the Ninth. I really enjoyed Gideon the Ninth. I was very keen to read Harrow the Ninth, and it just didn't work for me. I just did not know the motivation behind anything. I could not connect to Harrow the way I connected to Gideon, and I realised I was forcing myself through the pages rather than enjoying it. I skim read ahead to see if it was worth my while, and even though stuff that I wanted to happen was kind of starting to happen, it was too far into the book for me to trudge through a load of pages to get there. It just did not, I couldn't work out what the motivation was. Like, if I understood what Harrow was trying to do, the purpose of being there, what her end game was, what her goals were, I could probably have got there. But it just seemed to be things are happening and we're here. Like, I didn't know why, and I needed to know why. So I couldn't continue. It just wasn't working. So I have DNF'd the Locked Tomb series, and I DNF'd Harrow the Ninth. And one of my biggest disappointments is, I think, very much like you do. It's a Marmite book. I think you either love it or hate it, or you have a fond feeling for this author and this world. And it's The House of Sky and Breath. I don't have a fond feeling for the author and the world. I had an enjoyable time with the first book, The House of Earth and Blood. I was interested in the plot. I was actually invested in the protagonist and the love story. I was actually intrigued by it all and how everything came together, and I was actually fascinated by all these things being pulled to this point. And I thought, yes, this is what I want from a fantasy romance. I need this kind of level of plottiness to bring me in. And then House of Sky and Breath happened, and we're like, oh no. The editor forgot to edit the book. That's what happened. They just went, oh, she's written a new book. And then someone ticked, has this book been edited several times, box, instead of, and we got her first draft. So shame. Whoops. Publishers, just, you know, work on that a little bit more. Don't be publishing first drafts. Make sure you edit the book. There was so much unnecessary stuff in that book. It was such a filler book. We didn't know what was happening. We forgot that maybe female characters should be explored in this book. Like, maybe it shouldn't just all be, you know, amazing Hot Bryce and all her gorgeous, funky, chunky men who want to get in her pants all the time. Like, we had some amazing female characters in here and they did nothing with them. Nothing. And tangents kind of went off, and it just, the more and more stuff came in here, it just like felt less and less believable of everything that was going on. The stakes were not high. There were no high stakes. In the first books, there were high stakes. You know, we had, you know, maiming in the first book as a punishment for transgressions. The transgressions were stupid in this one. No one knew what they were doing. It was just because we can. And there was just no, there was nothing. There was just no danger in this book. There was no danger. It was just like, they can just do whatever they like because that's who they are. And the payoff just wasn't enough by that point, because I was just so annoyed. I was so annoyed by so many of the characters. Just stupid decisions, stupid plotting, far too long, ridiculous points going nowhere. And then the whole point of the book is, you know, because they wanted to Cosmere it up. So I don't care. Just don't care. I would have been much more intrigued if hell was explored, and just the whole thing, just things that were intriguing from the first book that should have been happening in this book. Nothing. There was no politicking going on at all. Like, they're all just Lisa's. Bryce is just running rings on everyone and they don't care. They don't ever call her to account for anything. And it just really annoyed me. I had a wonderful rant, though. If you want to see a wonderful rant where I will give you all of the specifics of what I really disliked about this book. When did I read it? Was it July? I think it was July. No, it wasn't. Or was it June? It was, but I hadn't finished my wrap up for that one. Yeah, okay, I think it could have been June. So feel free to go check that video out if you want to know my full extent of rantiness for that one. Okay, 12 minutes in, one tag out of several. So it's going to be a long one. It's going to be a long one. Okay, tag number 3. Let's try pausing. Tag number 3. Because otherwise, timestamp editing chatty is going to be annoyed with me. Are there any new releases you have not yet read from the second half of the year, but you want to? Of course there is. There always forever will be. So just going to do a little recap of previous, so from my mid-year recap books I was excited about, did I get to them? So I did get to 2 of them. So I did read The Teen LGBT by Jamie Rains, which was wonderful. I had an amazing time with this book. So pleased I read it. So pleased I was lucky enough to go and meet him at the book signing and question and answers. That was awesome. And his lovely wife Shaba. This was so fun. And I also did read The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson, which is such a delightful, messy fantasy. The muddiness, the messy is beautiful. So thrilled. Also got to meet Juno Dawson as well. So that was also exciting at Yalk, which I'm going to do a very belated Yalk video. Okay, what else did I have? Oh, no, that's... Yes, no, that was not me recapping. That was the question. Oh dear, here we go, chaos. Okay, right, so the question is books from the second half of the year that you wanted to read that you didn't get to. So those were on my list of ones that I had said I was anticipating and I did read. Other ones that I haven't read but I'm excited that I wanted to read that I haven't got to from the second half of the year are Upon a Frosted Star. It's under my bed. I'm very excited, but it's under my bed. Definitely haven't read it. The Snow Girl by Sophie Anderson. Very excited for this. I have access to it, but that's a whole other thing. But yes, excited for The Snow Girl. Haven't yet read. I do have this debut new fantasy, The Sun and the Void. I'm very excited about this. I think the world building is going to be so much fun. I'm really excited about exploring some South American folklore in here. I am very excited for this book. Have not yet read it, but it's an anticipated book. He Who Drowned the World, which I will be getting out of the library at some point. I am very excited to read it, and I haven't got that out of the library and read it yet. And A Benny Song I do want to own at some point. This is a middle grade by P. Jelly Clark, and I love P. Jelly Clark's work, so I also love middle grade, so the two together makes me very excited. Also, the premise sounds really interesting. Again, we're looking at other folklore tales. I cannot remember specifically where this one is, but I believe it is an African folklore that is explored in that book. But that one I definitely want to. I'm hoping to own that one because it's middle grade, and I love to collect lots of middle grade books. But those are all the ones that were published that I have not yet got my hands on. Reflecting on the ones from previously, I only read 2 of the ones that I mentioned that I was excited for previously, and that is Onyeka, who is over here. There she is. I did read Onyeka, and I also read Portraits and Poisons, so very excited to have got those books read. I still am excited for and have yet to read Warrior Girl Unearthed, Jamie, Nick Blake and the Remarkables, and In the Lives of Puppets. So many books, so many books. Exciting times. Okay, next tag. Tag number 4 is going to be this one, which is, oh, it's an A, so it's obviously fallen apart. Come back. Come back. Here we go. Yes, okay, right. So on a similar line, I have got tag 13. Did you read the books you said you should by the year end? So did I read all the books I said I should? Let's have a look at my notes for this one. What have I got on here? Okay, so in last year's free cat tag, I had 5 books that I said I should read. By mid-year, I had read 2 of them. No, I didn't. I had 5 books. I've still got 2 from that I haven't read. So I have not read Black and British. I have not read All Boys on Blue, because Black and British I can read. All Boys on Blue I do not own. It's on my list. It's on my list. But the other 3, yes, they are read. So we have, she says, where are they? Because I've got them all in different spaces. Talk amongst yourselves whilst I shuffle my books around. Shuffling books. And, oh, I have one up there. I'm just going to borrow this one as a placeholder because that involves standing out and all sorts of chaos. No, go on, I'll do it. So here we go. Here are the other books that are on my 5 books I wanted to read in 2023. I have Fool's Assassin by Robin Hobb, Black Water Sister by Zen Cho, and Orion Lost by Alistair Chisholm, as well as the 2 that I've just mentioned that I don't currently have because one's my husband's and is in a different space, and one I don't own, but I will put them in the description box along with all the other ones. So, Fool's Assassin, I read and adored. It was amazing. Black Water Sister, I also read. I finally read this book, the final book of mine to read by Zen Cho. She does have a short story collection though, which I will be getting my hands on, even though short stories are not usually my vibe. But yes, I did very much enjoy my time with Black Water Sister. And then we have Orion Lost, which I'm very excited to read. Still haven't read it. And I know why. I know what's holding me back. It's because in my head, I have an idea for a video that I really want to make. And I'm just not at that point in time where I can focus on doing that. And because I've just got this in my head and I cannot move it from that, I can't just replace it with a different book. So I can't read it until I'm ready to do that video. So that's why that one is where it is. Then at the end of my end of year book tag, I mentioned quite a few books that I was hoping to read by the end of the year. So I'll fill you in on those as well. I have, where do we start? Let's start with the appalled list. Let's start with the list of these books have been on my TBR for so long. I need to read them by the year end. So this was around end of September time, where in theory I had plenty of time to read them. But did it happen? We will find out. I just quite enjoy that holding them up like this. We have red, orange, yellow. That just makes me quite happy. So I have Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams, which is a contemporary. I have Girl of Ink and Stars by Kieran Millward Hargrave, which is a middle grade fantasy. And I have Let's Call It a Doomsday by Katie Henry, which is a YA contemporary about mental health. And if I'd done this video at the correct time, I would have continued to have been appalled because I'd never read any of these. However, I have now, in January, read Queenie. Yay! Spoiler, loved it. But these two are they're still there being TBR veterans. Now, originally I would have been appalled, but actually the reading I did during December and just the joyness of it has made me go, do you know what? Doesn't matter. You're still going to read them at some point. Wait for when it feels right to read these books, because you are going to have a much better time than if you're forcing yourself to read them just because you feel you should have done. So actually, I'm not appalled by myself, but no, I didn't read them. Nor did I read The Mercies by Kieran Millward Hargrave. I definitely want to read more Kieran Millward Hargrave. That is definitely a thing I want to be doing. We're moving out of cold season, so I do not think The Mercies are going to be read because I am a seasonal reader. I like the weather to reflect what I'm reading. I love vibes. I love book vibes. It definitely gives me all the good feelings. It enhances the reading experience for me even more, so I'm quite happy to allow myself to do this. I knew I couldn't fit The Mercies into my December reading month. I thought it unlikely that I was going to fit them into January because this is going to be, I think, an emotionally heavy book for me. It's historical fiction. I'm not sure it's going to end well. So I knew I also had some other books that I felt were going to be quite hard reads. So I thought there's no point me trying to squeeze another one in. I'm going to need things that are warmer and lighter to balance it all out. So we're going to be looking again at kind of the colder end of year months for The Mercies. Other books that I had on this list were series I wanted to focus on. So that was the Merlin series and the Arc of the Scythe series. Arc of the Scythe, no progress, still waiting. Merlin series I did read, so I feel very happy to have read that I want to do by the end of the year. I also wanted to read a Sanderson Secret Project book by the end of the year. That didn't happen. No, that was a fail. That didn't happen. But again, it's fine because they need my full attention. They need to not be rushed and I need to be in the right space. So it's fine that I didn't read them. Other book series that I wanted to try and finish by the end of the year was the Widdisham sisters. So I definitely wanted to have read A Tangle of Spells, which I did. So that's delightful. Harry the Ninth I've already spoken about. That didn't go well, but it's ticked off the list. And the final one was also on this pile down here, The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne, which I did also finish reading and had an amazing time with. So a mixed bag of did I read stuff I wanted to read by the end of the year. I now have question 13A, which is name 5 books you want to read this year. Now, I did enjoy last year randomly choosing 5 books that I wanted to read. But it didn't actually help me read them because I read 2 of those 5. So I'm not going to do another list of 5 books. Well, I kind of am, I suppose, but it's slightly different. So instead of it being like 5 new fictions, sorry, this leg needs to come out because I'm feeling uncomfortable. There we go. Just moving some books around. The chaos is real. Do you want to see the chaos? Sneaky peek of what I might be talking about. This is how I organise things. There we go. Behind the scenes. So what I'm going to be doing, back to the tag, not fiction books. I'm not going to set myself fiction books to read. I'm happier with working out what I'm feeling at the moment in terms of like goals, priorities, readathons, all of that stuff. So what I do want to do is I want to think about One book that I definitely want to read by the end of the year, and it's a non-fiction book, because I started reading it, I can't remember when it was, but I started reading it and didn't kind of continue because I didn't want to put a lot of pressure on myself to read a non-fiction, but I'm really interested in reading it, and that is Bloody Brilliant Bloody Brilliant Women by Kathy Newman. The pioneers, revolutionaries, and geniuses your history teacher forgot to mention. I really want to read this. This was a Christmas present from Mum a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. I've lost track. But I definitely want to read it at some point. But I think what I'm going to need to do is I am going to need to physically put it on the TBR and just be reading a little bit of it over the month to kind of keep it all together, because I kept I was like, I'm not going to give myself a deadline. I'm going to pick it up, read a bit and put it down kind of as and when. But unfortunately, when I came to pick it up again, I couldn't remember half of what had gone on before. So it kind of just didn't flow well. So I need to read it a different way, but I'm excited for it. And it's going to be good. I'm excited for this. Okay, the other thing is allowing myself to do some rereads. So what I've done to not feel that I really love rereading, but I haven't been rereading as much as I used to because I've been distracted by the new and shiny books. But one kind of thing that I very much felt from reading when I was reading my books in December was that it doesn't matter. Just stop thinking about plans and goals. Plans and goals are great because it's fun to do. It's nice to have a focus. It's nice to do that. But at the end of the day, no one actually cares. And even me, I don't really care. So shush, stop it, pull it back. So in order to allow myself to reread rather than worrying about my read what you own challenge, getting through my series, not having too many series, all of those things, I thought I'd do a little list of rereads. So the first one is a specific one. The others are It Can Be Any. So the specific one is Emma by Jane Austen. I love Emma. Emma is a comfort read. I have not read Emma for years because I didn't have a copy. Had copies of pretty much all the other ones, but I didn't have a copy of Emma, and I was saving it until I got this really lovely cloth-bound Penguin Classic edition, because books I love, I like to have in really nice copies. But I haven't picked it up, and I think again it's been that like anticipating that perfect reading moment. I think also because I haven't, apart from Northanger Abbey that I got in one of my TBR games, I haven't properly sat down and read Jane Austen for a long time, because in my head there's another project that is working on in the future. I'm not at that point where I can sit down and focus on it, and I think I was saving this to be in that mind frame to be doing that particular project, whereas I'm going to ignore it. I'm not at that project point yet. We're going to ignore that, but I am going to read Emma because I haven't, and I should, and I want to. Okay, the next are rereads that are by 3 different authors that I have read a lot of their books from in the past and just have not done that recently, apart from one. So I'll leave that one to last. So in my teenage years, I loved reading my mum's collection of Georgette Heyer books. These are so much fun. As a teenager, I did very much enjoy the romance part. It was the first time I read about characters kissing, which thrilled me. Nowadays, reading them, it's so tame. It's so tame. And the romance aspect, like in particular, this is the Talisman Ring. I loved the ingenue romance in this one, but as an adult, the more mature romance is so fun in this book. So for me, Georgette Heyer has that same social commentary that you have in Jane Austen's books, and that same kind of like witty dialogue and banter that I love so much. I find these hilarious. So on my list of books I want to reread this year, I want to reread a Georgette Heyer. It can be any Georgette Heyer. Just I want to pick one and reread a Georgette Heyer because it's a fun time. The same but a different vibe is the Brother Cadfael Mysteries by Ellis Peters. I love the Brother Cadfael series. They're not perfect. Sometimes some of their, again, ingenue characters can just seem a little bit beautiful and lovely, and there is a sort of a almost virginal appreciation, not necessarily because characters have sex in these books, not that you see it on, it's not graphic, but there is some like tender moments. There's one in particular I'm thinking of, but it's just kind of this revere, I suppose, for that kind of almost like pedestal, ethereally kind of revere of beauty, which sometimes is a little jarring, but that's the only thing, and it's not all the time. I very much love the herb lore that comes in here. I love Brother Cadfael in his herbal shed. I love that he's been in the world and kind of understands humans and has a lot of empathy, as opposed to some of the other monks in the monastery. There are kind of recurring things. It's set in the period of Stephen and Maud fighting. I can't remember what that particular time period was called, but basically there's a civil war in England over the crown, and people are kind of going on alongside it, and it's all focused on the monastery, and they are murder mysteries, they are whodunits, and Brother Cadfael is an amateur detective that solves these crimes, and it's just so warm and cozy, and I really love it. There is also a sort of obviously Brother Cadfael is a monk and has faith. There is a spiritual aspect as well, but I think you can definitely enjoy them even if you are an atheist. Like, it's very much in keeping sort of with the character, but I think yeah, having faith myself, there's a sort of a lightness and a joy from it as well, from that aspect of it. So I'd love to pick up one of these. They are very tiny books, and just allow myself to just get back between the pages of Brother Cadfael. Fun time. And finally, I have reread some of this author's work this year, and it has been such a delight, and I need to let myself do it more, and that is Terry Pratchett. So I think what I've done, because I know a lot of the things are in series, I felt, well, I can't, because I did them committing to rereading a series, and I loved my reread of The Witches when I did that. I can't remember when, recently-ish, 2021 possibly, but it was just such a pure joy to pick up randomly making money and not feel that I had to read going postal first. And the same, I also read one of the Witches books, actually. I read Lords and Ladies, so I didn't feel like I just grabbed that book because I felt like reading that particular book, and I didn't need to read it sort of in the series context. So that was just really I don't know what the word is, freeing, I think. I think there's a better word, but it just felt freeing. So I can just pick up a Pratchett, any Pratchett, and just read it, just because I can, and just have a wonderful good time with it. So I don't need to read it in a series. There's no reason for me to do that. I can just pick one up and read it. So possibly Raising Steam, just because it's the one I have that I've read the least, because of it being the most recent apart from the Shepherdess Crown. But I could pick up any Pratchett and just read it. So I don't know which one I'm going to go for, but a Pratchett. So there we go. The 5 books that I want to read by the end of the year are the non-fiction, the Austen, and 3 rereads. So yes, that makes me very happy. All right, that was a very long question. The other questions are not going to be nearly as long, so it's okay. We're going to be okay. Really don't want this to be 2 videos. Right, next tag is, what was the biggest surprise from the second half of the year? Okay. Oh, why are you here? Hold on. No, it was December. Okay, so I just confused myself. I thought I read this in January, but I didn't. I read it in December. Beartown. One of my biggest surprises was Beartown by Frederick Blackburn. I thought I was going to really enjoy it, but I didn't know how much I was going to love it and the characters and just really take it into my heart and just be desperate to just continue reading this series and just be spending time in this little snowy, icy, I think it's Nordic town. I think it's Nordic. Apologies if it's actually Sweden. I think it's Nordic. Anyway, really, really, really enjoyed Beartown. Just the themes that were dealt with, the characters, the way you kind of switched your opinion of characters, the developing relationships between them, and and just the character arcs and things that happen in here. It was just so well done, so enjoyable. Absolutely loved it. And the other one is one I borrowed from the library on audiobook and I don't actually have. And it is The Space Between Black and White. And I have totally not written down the name of the author. Sorry, my mind has gone blank. It will be linked. This is a memoir. And I think I went over it in, I think it was September was when I finished it. So if you have a look at my September wrap up, you'll get more of my thoughts on it. But basically, it was a big surprise because I was interested, but I didn't realize like how much I was going to be moved by it, to the point where I had to pause the audiobook and just take in what had just been said, and just have moments where I wanted to cry, I wanted to be angry, and just really appreciate when she grew up and how she was and what she went through and how she fought for social justice. So it's very much an intersectionality book. So it talks about her feminism, her exploration of race, her exploration of trying to find like identity and a place for herself and what that means, her want sort of like social justice for women and supporting women throughout the world. And it's just incredible. She's such an incredible woman. I absolutely love her. And I really want to get a hard copy of that book, because it's one of those ones that will just stay with me and I will be wanting to refer back to it. And when you're listening to it on audio, I love listening to it on audio because she narrated it. So it's her story in her words with her voice, which I really find wonderful when I'm reading a memoir. But I also want the physical copy so I can flick through and find phrases again, because there were certain like points of dialogue where I'd love to be able to just refer back to that. So it's Black History Month in America. So if you are looking for books by Black authors, this Black British author, definitely read her. And I feel so upset I can't remember her name. But I will definitely, it'll be in the description box. So please go and have a look at that book. Recommend the audiobook. It was fantastic. So yeah, really surprised by both of those, because neither of them, they're not fantasy. So I'm going to be a bit more surprised. Okay, tag number whatever we're on, who knows what it's going to be. What have I got here? Ooh, who is your favourite newest character? Well, of course I can't just have one, can I? Because that just wouldn't work. So that is question 9. So it's not a new character because it's a reread, but I want to mention it because I haven't spoken about this before on this channel. Helen Graham from The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. So strong. Like, I absolutely find her strength so inspiring and so powerful, especially because of the time that Anne Bronte was writing this story, where women's rights were much, much, much worse. They were still considered the property of their spouse, and that sucks. So there is a lot of wonderful exploration of emotional abuse in this book. There is an exploration of alcohol abuse, and just like holding on to your morals and yourself and your integrity, and not backing down when you know life would have been easier to have backed down a bit, but she would have had to have sacrificed something of herself to do that. And I just find her strength, it's her strength is just so awe-inspiring. I know sometimes she can be a bit much for people, and I totally get that, but I just find her amazing. The next one I have is Betty Widdersham from A Tangle of Spells. This is the 3rd book in the Widdersham Sisters Pinch of Magic quartet by Michelle Harrison. It's middle grade fantasy. What I love about these books is that there is always a legend. There is a local legend that is explored, and the sisters are then kind of part of that. sort of like within the present day and finding out more information about it and kind of what's going on. This definitely had a little bit more of a spooky vibe than the other ones, but we really got to see Betty continue in her amazing Betty adventuriness. Her interest in getting to the bottom of things, finding out what's going on, her bravery, the love she has for her sisters and her family. It was just so good in this, and the stakes felt high, and I just love the connection between the sisters. The other sisters are fun as well. Obviously Charlie is incredibly adorable, but again, it's the strength, it's the bravery of Betty, and it's her attitude towards trying to do things and not giving up, and her determination that just really makes me enjoy that character. And of course we have to do a shout out for Granny as well in this book. Granny is not your average Granny. Granny has been a pub landlord for a very long time, and she is not afraid of throwing out people who get a bit unruly. And I really love the relationship that Granny has with the three girls in here. It's so much fun. So yes, Betty Widdershins. And then I think I have two. Oh yeah, I have one where I don't have the book. So I have Rumble Star, but Crackle Dawn, the Crackle Dawn Dragons, I borrowed from the library. And my favourite character from that was Mrs. Flickertint. Mrs. Flickertint is a chameleon who has got wonderful common sense, tries to see the best in everyone, is a very practical chameleon, and is a very warm and loving chameleon. And she is an utter delight. She is just one of the best characters. It's very much, if you ever have that, who would you invite to a dinner party from books? Mrs. Flickertint. We all need a Mrs. Flickertint in our lives. She is so kind and nurturing, and the way with words, Abby Elphinston's way with words of like giving her the language she kind of puts into her. It's just so delightful. And I'm so sorry I don't have the book to be able to give you an example. But it's almost like when she's doing a threat, it would kind of end with, "Oh, I will be forced to give you a very severe talking to." It's just so fun. She's just so lovely, Mrs. Flickertint. We love her. But I cannot also talk about favourite characters without talking about one of the minor favourite characters I have in The Hunger of the Gods, which is Vesely. Vesely the Tenir. They are quite terrifying. They will go for your teeth. So they're like the creepiest tooth fairy ever, but it's my favourite creepy tooth fairy. Vesely is attached to some of the protagonists in this book, and I just really adore her. She is just so fun. And I just love her loyalty. Her loyalty is gorgeous. And just the way she kind of has adopted herself into this family and how she responds to things. She is a side character. She's not a huge part of the book, but the bits that she is in there, I'm just like, I just love Vesely. I just love this creation by Gwyn of this character here. So there we go. I've got 4 because I can't choose one. There's many more, but those ones just stuck out to me in some way. Okay, we now have question 7, which is quite helpful. It follows on for that. So who is your favourite new author? So new to me authors. So when I answer this question, I like to talk about one that's consolidated themselves as a favourite. So it's not that I read one book by theirs this year that I really liked, or in the last 6 months that I really liked, but they've consolidated their position as one of my favourites. So I'd previously read from them, and then I've read again, and that I don't feel I can pick a favourite author from just one book. They'd just be like, I like this book, and I feel happy that I would definitely read something else by them. But to be a favourite author of mine, you have to have written more than one book that I have enjoyed. Therefore, Abby Elphinston with her Unmapped Chronicle series. I loved every single book in that series. The whimsiness, the emotional journey and nurturing of our protagonists and the things they go through and their character arcs within this warm world is just so beautiful. I mentioned a lot of the time, it feels very classic, this fantasy series, and it feels very written for children, but in the best way, in that these are things they need to hear. These are books that are going to build up their self-confidence, their self-esteem, give them a fantastic morality code to to consider, open up their imagination, give them joy and comfort, but they are not patronizing. Also, adults can read them because they're just so joyful. They are not patronizing at all. It could easily go that way because of the narrative tone of voice, but it really doesn't. It's just like she's having a joke with you about how grown-ups can sometimes be annoying, which I think would just delight middle grade readers, but also just appreciate it. There is just such an absolute love in here of the wonder and amazingness that children and young people have inside them. I think as adults, we have so much like going on. We never often will stop and look at the bigger picture so much. We are constantly focused on the details and the little things and trying to balance stuff, whereas the children will cut through to the heart of the matter and be like, boom, this. And I just think that's so wonderful and so joyful. And that wonder of our the young people and the children in this world, Abby Elphinstone gets it. She understands it and she shows it to us. And I cannot praise this series enough. It's just so wonderful. And it's definitely cemented Abby Elphinstone as an author I will pick up. I want to read all of her works. Possibly, she has written a book that I'm not interested in just because I'm not interested in the subject matter. But I think if anyone was going to sell it on me, she would. And I'm sure it's great. And I hear lots of people love it. But I just, for some reason, I just can't get over. I just don't want to read about Peter Pan. I don't want to read about going back to Neverland and being in that world. And I don't know why. But she's written Return to Neverland or something of that title. And lots of people love it. But even though she's written it, I don't know if I want to read that one. But everything else I want to read Abby Elphinstone. The second author that is cemented as a favourite author in my head and heart is the wonderful Juno Dawson. I've already mentioned that I have been privileged to meet her at YALC, and the woman behind the words is as wonderful as you'd expect her to be. I watched her in a panel talking to other authors, and she was so funny, and she was so like honest and open, and she was just like, why did you write Her Majesty's Royal Coven? Because I said to my husband, I don't want to write the book I'm working on. I just really want to write If the Spice Girls Were Witches. And I love that. I am a Spice Girls was part of my childhood. I grew up with Girl Power and the Spice Girls. So I love all the Spice Girls references in here. It's so much fun to see. But also Juno Dawson just has this wonderful way with words of just some crazy plots going on in here. It's so like, I am not usually someone who loves messy family drama, but messy family drama with witches and looking at gender politics is delightful. So in the first book, we explored a lot of different witches that weren't necessarily represented, and kind of the concept of the feminism just being like white Eurocentric feminism, which is a reality in our world that definitely exists. It shouldn't do, and historically, it's been a struggle to get intersectionality into feminism and understanding into it. Can't just be feminism. You need to also look at how this affects Black women, how this affects lesbian women. You need to be sort of looking at all of those things as well when you are talking about feminism, and also supporting those sub-communities, I suppose, and how can we boost their voices up, and how can we support them as well under our giant feminism umbrella. So that was what the first book sort of focused on. I don't want to go into any more than that because I don't want to spoil it. This book focuses on how misogyny can rear its ugly head and what it would look like if witches were real in this world today. And it's disgusting, and it's horrific, and it's horrible, and a lot of stuff happens, and there's a lot of secrets going around. There's a lot of messy stuff going on. There's definitely lots of different grey areas and grey decisions, but the characters are so much fun. You find yourself rooting for people you didn't think you would be. You find yourself switching your brain on certain things, and it's just so good. I did prefer the first one only because of the subject matter in it was something that is very that I really loved and kind of wanted a bit more from in this one. I'm hoping we kind of then explore it again more in the third. But this one was still really good in terms of all of the chaos, all of the messiness, all of the continuation of the story. I could not stop reading. It's just so juicy, and you just want to keep going and going and going and consuming it. So Juno Dawson is an absolute genius. I have also read non-fiction by her. I have another non-fiction book that I really want to read by her. So can't wait to do that. I don't know if I will go on to read her contemporary stuff, because I definitely feel with this, one, the premise just absolutely excited me, but two, you can just see her joy and her heart and soul in this book as well. And if she was not as invested in some of the other books she's written as much as she was in this one, I don't know if I'm going to get the same enjoyment out for them, and I don't want to not enjoy my books. So yes, Juno Dawson, absolute favourite author. Sorry, I'm just talking, I can't help it. We might have to go for 2 videos, we'll see how we go. Okay, so this is tag number 7. No, done that one. I put it back in, didn't I? Right, I'm not even going to pick one off the top this time. I'm going to pick this one, which is, oh, what is your favourite video you made in the second half of the year? So question prompt 14. So this is kind of more, not so much like specific video, but more like projects that I did. One was a big goal for me, and that was my middle grade readathon that I did. I did Journeyathon in July. I will link one of the videos for it here. So this will be a recommendation video that you could use for prompts, but it's basically me talking about middle grade I love. So I would love more people to read, to hear more about middle grade I love, and think about reading more middle grade, because I love middle grade books. It was so much fun. It was just delightful to have people getting on board with that. I felt so happy to have done that. I had so much fun championing some books, having a map with this magical journey, and I cannot wait to be doing it again this year. The other video that I feel really proud of this year, it's not because of anything exciting or groundbreaking or anything with video, but I kind of just took an idea and I just kind of then ended up going off in this direction with it, and that was the middle grade Readers' Choice Awards. So it was basic because Goodreads did not do a middle grade category this year, and I love middle grade, so I wanted to try and do my own version and try and find a load of books that have been widely read, widely enjoyed, and put it all into a system to decide which was going to be the winning book. So it was a mixture of getting people on in the booktube community to vote on my communities page, getting people in my Discord on middle grade mad chat who really love middle grade books like me to vote on certain things, and that's kind of how it all came about. And I had a great time doing that as well. It did mean that like half the stuff that I planned to do kind of then went out the window because I focused on this instead. But it's middle grade books, it's talking about middle grade books, it's finding new middle grade books, and seeing what other authors and stories are out there that I hadn't come across before. So it was really fun and delightful for that, and I'm hoping to do something similar this year and then some. So that was very exciting for me. Okay, our next tag is tag number 12. What is the most beautiful book you have bought or received in the second half of the year? So I have 3 books to show you. So the first is a book that I bought myself back in whenever we did the booktube meetup. This is The Secret of the Stars by Marie Kuznia, and I just love the artwork on this book. We have got we've got this colour palette of sort of like coral reds and teal greens, almost like, no, actually not teal is the wrong word, I think it's like jade green. And we have got like a pirate kind of Arabian mixture of pirate and kind of like, no, it's not Eastern kind of side, not Arabian. The other one was Arabian. So we've got this kind of like pagoda and this archway into this jetty where you moor up boats, and we've got this peep through. So in the archway we can see the boat, and then here we've got the boat out in sea with these craggy rocks, this green sky and this green balloon there. And I love the colour palette. I love all of the artwork on here. It just is exquisite. I then have this was one of my Christmas presents. that I bought for myself and got my family to give me. And it is Jane Austen's Persuasion. This is the Seasons collection, I think. I can't remember. I remember seeing a few of these around. I think they are re-releasing a lot of these because they are just so lovely. So all of this has been laser cut. So this is a blue hardback, and then this cover, I haven't taken off the shiny protection jacket yet, but all of this has been cut. So we've got this upturned boat, we've got two bonneted women, one will be Anne, I'm not sure who the other will be, we've got boats, we've got Jane Austen, we've got a sunshine, and we've got the title Persuasion in here. And Persuasion is one of my favourites, so I really wanted a gorgeous copy of it, so this delights me a lot. We've got end pages of waves, and the title page has got the same like printing of what was cut out, and there are certain pages in here that have, let me find one. So it also has quotes in the middle of the like the kind of like stenciled picture of the front cover. He was not Mr. Wentworth, the former curate of Monkford, however suspicious appearances may be, but a Captain Frederick Wentworth, his brother, who being made commander in the consequence of action of St. Domingo, and not immediately employed, had come into Somersetshire in the summer of 1806, and having no parent living, formed a home for half a year at Monkford. I should not have bothered of reading it out because I totally butchered that. Trying to read all that scrawly writing, but there we go. And also it comes with just trying to find something to show it off to you on. It comes with a cut out bookmark. So we have, again, we've got the two women here in the bookmark of this cutout, and it is in its own little cover, but you can take out the card version there, and it is just so pretty, but it's very delicate, so I'm probably going to keep it in that thing, but it's just so clever. So that's that beautiful book. And the final book I have to show you is another gift. This one was from my mum, and it's just The Skull by John Clasham. She bought it and read it and then gifted it to us so that we can all enjoy it as a family. This is a folk tale. It's like an illustrated chapter book. It's just so cute, and on the hardcover, look, we've got this green, oh, sorry, I've got stickers on my hand. We've got this greeny sort of mossy grey colour, and then it's got a little skull and crossbones, and on the spine we've got a little picture of the skull as well. And then the flaps, we've got the chair with the skull sat on it, and we've got pink, we've got sort of like a little peachy colour end pages, which is sort of the colour palette of the book. And we've just got some gorgeous illustrations in here. Just love the warm light coming out and just reflected on the ground. It's just so pretty. So really love this book. So I'm so delighted to have my own copy because I read it, I got it out of the library. So this is so exciting. This is mine, it's not my children's. Sorry, Mum. Don't know who it was for, but it's mine. I will read it to them, but it's mine. So lovely. So there we go. Beautiful books, beautiful illustrated books. So we're about halfway and it's an hour. So I am going to stop it there. I'm going to say goodbye, and then I'm going to film part 2. So that it's not too ridiculously long for everyone to watch, because I just have so much to say. I'm sorry, but there we go. So thank you everyone for watching. Let's cheers you with the tag of tea, and I'll be back to finish off the tea a little bit later on. Happy reading, everyone. Oh, and please give me a like, even though I'm ridiculously long. It's always nice to be liked. And also have a little chat in the comments about your feelings on any of these books, what your biggest disappointment, most beautiful books are, the favourite videos you've done this year. If you leave a link, I could welcome and watch them. I don't want to promise to watch them because I've been rubbish with my comments recently, and I'm really sorry about that, but I will strive to do better. Anyway, have a little chat. Happy reading in the meantime, and I will be posting the second part very shortly. Bye bye.